dig up that old fossil.
Going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
That's no move.
We're all fine here now, thank you. How are you?
Welcome to the Star Wars Nerds Podcast. I'm Dan Vadabonker.
And I'm Kenton Larson.
I almost forgot what we were doing today, Kenton. We're getting ready for our info night tonight. Are you all ready?
Not really. No, I'm not. In fact, I'm not at all ready now that you mention it.
Oh, crap.
I don't really know. I know when it starts. I don't really know what I'm doing. It's my own fault. I haven't read anything. I haven't looked at much. I just show up.
You show up and talk about what you do.
I show up and I talk to the people. And that's what I did last year. And I abandoned any plan there was. I plan to do that again this year. I'm planning to not do the plan. I'm planning to do what I want to do, which is usually greet people.
And mingle.
Shepherd them into the room where they need to go. Like, stand around, make small talk, all of that stuff.
I'll be podcasting. I got myself into the podcast corner again, and I get to stay in one place all night. So you can come over and join me for some podcasting.
Well, why can't I be there? I don't get it. They put me at things. I don't know what it is. You're at the Man Bites Dog Station or whatever. I'm like, what's that?
What is that?
I don't know. I think that's what it said.
What, headlines or something?
Wait a second. I might have the name wrong, but I think that's what it is.
Isn't that a movie?
Go over to
French film from the 90s?
Go to Man Bites Dog. I'm like, what is that? Yeah, I just don't want to participate in that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not the person you want to participate in your whatever it is, whatever your idea is. I don't want to participate in it, but I'll help in my own way. I'll help at what I'm good at.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Why do I need to? Like, how is this thing gonna work? Am I supposed to bring a dog?
No.
Am I supposed to bite a dog that's already there?
I don't know, actually. I'm going to have to stop by the station and see what's going on.
I'm just going to hang with you at the podcast station because I don't know what any of this stuff is. And I don't care. My job is to bring people in to get them to sign up for our course.
And that is what we're talking about, of course, is an info night for our program, Creative Communications, which we both teach into.
Yeah.
And we're getting ready to talk about our program to anybody who comes in who is interested in taking it. So that's going to be our evening. Yeah. But first, let's get to some Star Wars news. We have a few interesting developments this week in the world of Star Wars. We're still, of course, kind of digesting Skeleton Crew, and there's still some reaction going on to that. We also found out that The Acolyte was like the second biggest streaming show on Disney Plus last year, but people still hated it. I think we all watched it despite hating it. Like, I didn't like it, but I still watched all of it. So
yeah, I always finish. I watch Star Wars to the end. But although not animation, that's not true for animation.
Just because it's streamed a lot, it does not mean that people like it. So
I also think it was, and I think if you actually, how does it work again? Did they say number of streams?
Oh, I have it
because there's many different measurements now for measuring online streaming. What does it say?
It says Deadline shared the stats, citing research from Illuminate, which broke down television's highs and lows of 2024. It says the Percy Jackson and the Olympians got the top spot with over 3 billion minutes viewed. That's how they're in minutes viewed is how they're measuring this. Like, come on,
minutes viewed.
What does that mean?
Okay,
like they could be just watching the first episode over and over again.
Well, that's the problem.
Right.
And also the length of the series impact then that.
Like, how long is that? I totally forgot that was a series, by the way. I'm like, is that they're talking about the movie from like decades ago? No, it's a series, and I was going to watch it, and then I totally forgot about it. And then The Acolyte came in second with 2.7 billion. I still don't think that's a lot. They're saying minutes to make it sound like it's more than it is, or something.
Let's
like that.
Convert that to hours, and then let's divide it.
Yeah, let's figure out what this really means here. That's so confusing.
Yeah.
Wow, they're just trying to make it look good.
Yeah, and it could be people rewatching. It could be people. I don't know. I'm not sure.
But to be fair, like, they didn't have a lot of other stuff on there. Like, the other thing they're talking about is Agatha All Along, which I stopped watching because I didn't like it. That was
I didn't even start that one. I sort of gave up on just that.
But there just wasn't a lot on Disney Plus last year as far as big series goes. Like, that was the biggest one. It's Star Wars. Of course it's going to do well.
Yeah.
Because it's Star Wars. People will watch it no matter what. But the next time around, now, I want to see what the numbers were for Skeleton Crew. I'd like to know if the Acolyte, the crappy reception of Acolyte, made people shy away from Skeleton Crew.
I think it probably did.
Yeah.
I just didn't see what goes viral anymore anyway. Like social media in many ways, It's just not what it used to be. And so, like, just because we didn't see it trending doesn't necessarily mean much. Like, we have a student, and he told me today he just finished Skeleton Crew. And that's like that's a couple weeks after the final episode. So there's that element too. Not everybody has to watch it at the same time. But I think it probably did impact it. And I also think that the fact that they canceled The Acolyte, but it still had a reasonable, I mean, if it came in second, it had a reasonable amount of viewing. That, to me, is an admission that the quality was not good.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
If they had renewed it, people would have been upset, I think. Because they would think that it would be at the expense of something else that they would have produced, right?
Yeah, and I think we even said we were on the decanonize this thing train. Remember, like, get this thing, like...
Give it the Willow treatment?
Yeah, like it's just not good enough. It's not good enough to be called, to be called Star Wars. I don't think it's strong enough. And I think that Willow was terrible as well. But there was one episode with Christian Slater that I liked of Willow, and there was probably one episode's worth of material that I liked in The Acolyte. But that's not it's not much. So
sorry, I'm just trying to get some issues going. Here we go.
It's weird to me that you pull Willow from viewing, but The Acolyte's still there and you can still watch it. Like, what's the difference between one and the other? One's a tax write-off and one isn't? Or...
No, I just think Star Wars is bigger than Willow, and they just thought nobody would notice that if Willow was gone, because it was just one series. Really, there's only one movie, and then, the series, but that's it. And then, meanwhile, there's a ton of stuff for Star Wars. So, I don't know. I thought that was a weird decision that they pulled it. I didn't think... That is an even more admission of how bad the series was, right? If they're just going to take it right off the platform.
Willow was so bad, I bailed on the last episode, where it's just, I couldn't take it. Like, I'd made it that far, and I still couldn't take it.
Yeah.
Like, where I just was like, this is horrendous. And I just thought, I was like, I've wasted enough time. I'm not going to throw bad time after good. And Acolyte still had moments that were okay, I thought, but as a something that we're supposed to go back to, I would even say probably The Rise of Skywalker, I would rank among that too, where it's just the more you watch it, the less good it is. And I think the more I think about it, even the fact, as I've always say, I hate the fact it's called Rise of Skywalker and Luke's still dead at the end. It's just nothing in it makes me want to revisit it. I think it would not upset me if they said, you know what, we're going to redo the last, we're going to redo that trilogy.
So make a new sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
Well, all they would have to do is set it like in between the two trilogies. They have to set it like 10 years after Return of the Jedi, and they could do whatever they wanted.
And with AI Luke and AI
Han and stuff.
Han, as that technology gets better and better, we could actually have the sequel of our dreams that we imagined. In between, and it could actually be Heir to the Empire. There's stuff that could be done there.
Would people get upset about the AI stuff, though? People are getting worked up about that in movies.
When the actor is no longer around to even be cast in the film, what else can you do?
No. But I'm thinking, apparently in The Brutalist, there's an AI. They used AI for his voice or something like that.
To speak Hungarian.
Is that what it was? So, yeah. And I just saw a guy talking about it on TikTok. He said he could tell. I'm like, I don't think I would be able to pick up on that.
I have noticed people online saying they could tell too. The lips don't match the voice coming out, I guess, which is not on a big screen. I think you're going to notice that.
Maybe.
I saw it today also. That means Timothée Chalamet is front runner for Bob Dylan.
For the Oscar?
For the Bob Dylan, yeah.
For the Oscar for Best Nose?
Because
he's going to make makeup because he's got a great nose.
His hair was AI, so they're gonna cancel him too. His voice, yeah. Oh, yeah. Bob Dylan's voice could be AI now that I think about it.
That's right.
How does it feel?
That's right. I mean, you don't really need to. You can make him sound whatever you want.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we'll see. I mean, all this to say, they're still releasing series. They're still moving forward with it. They're just not continuing Acolyte. I think just everyone's surprised at how many views it actually got. But I'm not that surprised, given it's a Star Wars property and they all probably do well. They don't always release the numbers for these things. They haven't released it in comparison to the other Star Wars series. I'd like to see that and how it ranks among the Mandalorian and Andor and all the other stuff they put out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's whatever. The Acolyte's done. Let's leave it. alone.
Yes, it is done, and I don't think I could put myself through it again. I think, although I could probably watch that one episode, the lightsaber fight in the jungle episode was a decent fight.
Yeah,
but then after that, it got instantly crappy again. When the fight was over,
right,
it got bad.
Now, the other big piece of news last week was that we have another standalone film announced, being directed by, what's his name again? Oh, Sean Levy, the director of Deadpool and Wolverine. And it's going to star a Canadian Ryan, but not the Canadian Ryan you'd think based on Deadpool and Wolverine. It's Ryan Gosling, apparently, is going to be in this movie. Now, this is a big star, big name, Hollywood star. Not something they usually do for Star Wars. Like, Star Wars usually casts kind of relative unknowns or lesser known actors. What do you think of this?
Although Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor are already known,
yes,
of course, but he is a superstar of today.
He's already become like major. Yeah. Those two guys, like, they were on the verge. I would argue Liam Neeson had done. I think he'd done Rob Roy.
Sure.
And Ewan McGregor had done Trainspotting. So they were both kind of like on the radar of Hollywood, and they were already established.
Yeah, although they weren't mega celebrities.
No, and this is the point. The point of it is that they're always casting for the role, casting the right actor for the role, regardless of how famous or well known they are. This does seem like they're casting Ryan Gosling because they want Ryan Gosling fans to come watch Star Wars, right?
I also think Star Wars is in need of kind of a refresher. Although Skeleton Crew was a good refresher after The Acolyte, I have to say, but I think when we're talking about films, I think Mandalorian and Grogu will be good, I think. And this has draw appeal, and I think the only reason this movie's fast-tracked is because Gosling said he'd do it. Or he's in talks, but one supposes that should be an easy negotiation. And he's great. He's always a good actor. Nobody dislikes him. Especially coming off of his recent hits. And so, although The Fall Guy wasn't a hit, but although I liked the movie,
pretty good movie.
I liked it. Yeah. I thought it was okay too. Like, it wasn't amazing, but it was good.
Yep.
So I think it's good. I think it's good for Star Wars. I'm interested. Would he be a villain? Would he be a good guy?
He's got to be the good guy. I don't think you would cast him as a villain. What about like people? Like, there has been some accusations of stunt casting in the last couple of years with Jack Black and Lizzo in that episode of what was that again? Was that
Mandalorian?
Yeah, Mandalorian. So there was that. We have seen, of course, a lot of A-list celebrities in the Star Wars series these last couple of years.
Yeah.
Like, everybody wants to be in Star Wars, which makes sense. And I think it would. It's something different. It's not like it's kind of this. It's a big Hollywood movie. Well, it's hard to say because even the Star Wars films later on, the other ones, all those people were huge stars when they came out. Like, but by the time Return of the Jedi came out, all three actors of the main actors of Star Wars were famous for other reasons too.
Yeah.
Right. So there was more to it than that. But I don't know. I just think it's an interesting choice. I think they're trying different things. They are in some ways seeing what sticks to the wall.
Yeah.
Right. I do think there is a bit of that going on. And so, I mean, nobody has anything bad to say about Ryan Gosling, so we'll see what it ends up being.
But what I like is, okay, how many announcements of how many movies that didn't ever get made or just vanished by the wayside, and this one that we hardly ever heard about or knew anything about suddenly is fast-tracked, and it's like, we're doing this one next kind of thing.
Yeah, but what about Simon Kinberg's trilogy he's working on? There's, what's his name was working on a trilogy? Was Ryan Johnson working? Is that still happening?
I doubt it.
The Dream Boy trilogy? That's still happening.
It can't be happening.
Taika Waititi is supposed to be working on a Star Wars movie. There's the
oh no, that one's over.
What about the X-Wing movie?
That one's apparently still in play somehow after all this time, but I don't know. And then she made this stinker sequel to Wonder Woman, and then maybe I don't know.
Yeah,
that might have been enough.
For that. It's an interesting situation, but we'll see what happens. Then there's also rumors. I've got this another rumor roundup says that Henry Cavill is in talks to be in Star Wars.
What?
This is what I'm getting.
Is this new?
This is from comicbookmovie.com. Star Wars rumor roundup. Henry Cavill in talks. Natalie Portman's cut Obi-Wan role in more.
Yeah.
So this is saying that that Ewan McGregor could return to the set as Obi-Wan Kenobi for the second season of Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Natalie Portman actually shot at least one scene as Amidala for Obi-Wan, but it never made the cut. So it's interesting.
That's but I would love to see what that is.
What would it have been, do you think? Like a flashback or something?
Flashback or a world between worlds,
Like she's there too?
potentially.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. And then, Henry Cavill is now in talks for undisclosed role in an upcoming Star Wars movie. So he could be the villain in the Ryan Gosling. That would be interesting.
That would be very interesting.
Yeah. Like to have two big stars as your two main characters in the film. Oh, no. Apparently, Cavill was being eyed for a part in the Kinberg trilogy.
Oh.
But I don't know. But there's lots of like rumors, right?
It doesn't say what time period the movie takes place in, as far as I know. Does your article there say anything?
No, it doesn't.
About that?
No.
Because I think the director said something about he wanted to do something outside of the time period that everybody's explored so much, and I think that would be good. That's a good idea. Although not during the Acolyte time. Don't do it then. We don't want those characters showing up.
No. We don't tie that together. Here was a Naomi Aki, who was introduced as former Stormtrooper Jenna in The Rise of Skywalker, had to say about potentially returning during an interview with Screen Rant. Ask them, Star Wars, get it together. I get a call. We'll see what happens. I'll see if I'm free. That's weird that they would include that in this. Who cares about her? It's just some person they interviewed that played that. Remember the Stormtrooper character they tried to set up with, what's his name?
Oh yeah, with Finn.
Finn, they give him a love interest or something late in the game.
That was the weirdest.
It was very strange. But anyway,
Lando's daughter. Is that the person they hinted at?
That's not who they said it was though. But Lando was like gonna do something.
I'll help you. Look up your roots, and we're like, is that just some more bullshit mystery box writing from the ass of J.J. Abrams?
Yeah, and we haven't heard much from him lately, eh?
Yeah, I wonder what happened. But he was like the toast of the town with Star Trek, first Star Trek, but then right away it started to get shaky with the second one.
Yeah, where
he copied Wrath of Khan basically and did
not very well.
No,
and he was doing Star Trek and Star Wars at the same time, kind of thing. He was actually going back and forth for a while between those two.
I think that's so
because he did the two out of those three Star Wars films, but he did all three Star Trek films.
Yeah.
But he hasn't done much lately. Like, what is the last thing he did? Right?
Gosh. Cloverfield.
But he produces that stuff, but I don't know if he hasn't directed anything since The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
So, and he was like, at one point, he was the next Spielberg.
Yeah, but the bloom fell off the rose. Like, he just wasn't, he didn't bring to it what people wanted him, what people expected. The Force Awakens was swept in on goodwill.
Yeah.
And it could have paid off. Like it set things up and we were excited to see what happened next, but then that's when things kind of went topsy-turvy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So who knows?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird.
He wanted to kill Jar Jar. Remember he wanted to put his bones in the desert? Whatever he said in Vanity Fair.
Oh yeah, and that never happened.
None of that stuff aged very well.
No.
Yeah, they really thought, I don't know, it was weird. They really thought they had something, but then they didn't really plan ahead.
Well, that's what surprised us all, right? We thought they would come up with a plan for the entire thing, and they just they were really winging it one at a time. Yeah. Let's see how these go. And I mean, that is the way that movies used to be made. Like, they used to just make one movie and then see how well it did, and then if it did well, they would plan a sequel. Obviously for Star Wars, it's going to do well enough that you can plan a trilogy, and they just didn't seem to do that.
I think the difference might have been, so they sped it up to every 2 years. Had they done every 3 years, that might have been better.
Right. Take more time to develop the script, to develop the story, and make people wait. There's nothing wrong with making people wait, right? That's just being greedy, trying to accelerate the timeline.
George Lucas made us wait 3 years, and he had the entire story in his head, and he made us wait 3 years between movies. And even the prequels were 3 years between. So people are willing to wait.
Oh, sure.
That
would build demand more, I think. Speaking of that, it's been 5 years, almost 5 years since the High Republic was released. That's it was a novel series taking place, I think it's around the time of the Acolyte. It's like in the before times. It's something like that. It's the High Republic, which is like before the New Republic or the Republic.
Oh, do we? Oh, yeah. And I think there's actually a character in Acolyte that's in the novels or something. I remember that. Yeah.
But I think they're wrapping it up now. The final novel is coming out, and I guess it still remains to be seen whether or not they're going to continue on with it. I remember at the time they launched it as a possible like jumping off point for movies and stuff. Like they were hoping that some of these stories would develop into maybe movies or other series and that kind of stuff. I don't know if that's going to happen. Doesn't seem to be a lot of interest in this. Like, again, people just want the Star Wars they know and love from their childhood. They don't want to know about like hundreds of years ago.
Those look like young adult novels or something, though. It looked like they're trying to cultivate a younger audience. That seems to be what they've been trying to do lately, which is to, like, even with Skeleton Crew,
right? Which
is cultivate a younger audience that'll be Star Wars fans for a longer time. So it's not just a Gen Xer franchise, so that it's like they want ongoing success for the franchise. So I think that's what they've been looking at. But you couldn't pay me to read those High Republic books. No. Remember, you and I read that Aftermath, because we were so excited.
Getting back to Star Wars, I read a couple of those Thrawn novels. Those were good.
Yeah, those are good. Yeah,
and that's like kind of talking about Thrawn before, like the and it's like Thrawn and Vader working together before A New Hope. So that was an interesting storyline. But yeah, I've been thinking about getting into some Star Wars novels. I haven't read any of those in a while.
Yeah, if the right thing came along, I don't know what that is. No. But if there was something good that came along, I would definitely read it. I think maybe by a certain author or something. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it would take.
I mean, I would even reread Heir to the Empire. I haven't read that one in a long, long time.
I read those as they came out, and then I never read them again. So who even knows if they hold? I assume they hold up because people are still fans.
Those are the ones people thought should be made into movies, eh? Those would have been great movies.
Could you? I was going to say you could still make them. It couldn't be the same story though, because it would have to tie in with Force Awakens, where that starts off. So if you were to do those, you couldn't have the Solo twins.
No,
like there's some of that stuff would have to go. That was in there, right?
Yeah, they had twins, and they had a son named Anakin. Like Leia and Han named one of their sons Anakin.
What about Clone Luke?
That was
Luuke.
Yeah. And Mara Jade was in there as well. There was a lot of stuff people liked about those series. So anyway, I don't know. It's interesting.
The problem with any cloning, it's like Mission Impossible and the masks, and it just every 2 seconds, the guy's like, "It's really me," and he pulls the mask off. And at a certain point, they've started to not do that as much because it ruins your enjoyment of the film because you think something's happening. And then the rest of the movie, you're like, well, he's just going to pull a mask off and it's going to be him. And it sort of spoils the whole movie. And I think with Star Wars, with clones, you could get there where it's just like, and I think we were coming close with the Mandalorian with what's his name?
Yeah.
Esposito.
Yeah.
I think when we saw him in all those tanks, we know like he can come back 1,000 times.
Okay.
So I'm just worried about that. I think with the clones, or clone of Luke. What's up?
Yeah.
We'll use CGI and AI to make clone of Luke, but he's weird, uncanny valley. And you're like, yeah, because he's the clone.
They're gonna pull the same bit as Alien Romulus with Ian Holm or whatever. That was not good.
No,
but they probably told themselves, "Oh, it's okay. He's an android. He can look like that." Right?
Of course, that's what they told themselves. And how about the estate of that guy's family or whatever? That's weird. Yeah, I don't think that movie needed that.
No, not at all. In fact, it could have been a completely different android. Like it could have been any other android for the story to work, and it didn't have to be him at all. So it's very weird.
Yeah, it was very weird. I don't think it worked either. And I think everybody who said that was a good movie was kind of raw.
I think they liked what they liked about it was that it feels a lot like the original in a lot of ways, which is fine, and they did a lot of nods to the original, but it's not as good.
It's not as good. It has moments. Once again, I don't hate it, but I never want to watch it again.
No,
Yep. So
anyway, all right. Wait, anything else to talk about?
Yeah, I went to see Return of the Jedi, the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra, and I think it was even more enjoyable than Empire Strikes Back because the crowd was so into it. Once again, it reignited my love of Star Wars. The crowd was cheering and booing Darth Vader. And one of the things, it's been so long since I've seen Return of the Jedi on a movie screen. And of course, the orchestra's underneath the screen, so that's kind of cool too. But one of the things, like some of the stuff that the audience laughed at was stuff that when you watch it so many times, you forget it's funny. But they laughed real hard at Harrison Ford's performance, and it is a good moment where he finds out right near the end, where he finds out where he says, if you want to be with Luke, I won't hang around. And she goes,
I won't get in the way.
Right, I won't get in the way. And she goes, he's my brother. And then from that moment where his face changes and he goes, huh? And he has a look on his face and he smiles and he looks at her. And I was like, holy shit, that's a long pause where his face has to do lots of things. And it is really funny. It's a funny performance, right? Intentionally funny, but the crowd really gave that huge laughs. They and they also really laughed hard at Rebel Scum, because that is funny. I forgot how sad it is when the Ewok dies and his little buddy tries to wake him up. That's horrible on a big screen. That's traumatic for a kid to see that. But I always forget, and this is my Citizen Kane moment with Return of the Jedi. Citizen Kane, you never remember what order the movie's in because it's a guy interviewing people about the man, and so you sort of piece the story together in your head. In Return of the Jedi, I never remember what happens in what order. You got to blow up the shield generator. You got to defeat Darth Vader. You got to blow up the Death Star. Does the Death Star start blowing up before you get Darth Vader onto the ship, or does it? Because he's shooting out as it blows up. Yeah. But has it started blowing up?
Yeah. It's after. It's not. They're in the process. I believe they're in the process of like flying into the Death Star while Luke is dragging him to the shuttle.
Yeah.
And so they're like, it's already starting to blow up because they're being attacked and there's stuff happening, but they haven't shot the middle thing that makes it all, like when Wedge like shoots the thing to make it all blow up, or I guess the Falcon does. But Wedge shoots something too.
He shoots the thing on the side.
Yeah. So they're like they're working together. Yeah. But yeah, during that part, that's when he says that conversation with him. I want to see you with my own eyes. That's my favorite of the original trilogy. I love this movie.
Yeah,
Trilogy is a great film.
And also the other thing that I noticed more than ever is the foreshadowing of, I think that's the last I'm going to see the Millennium Falcon. I think this is not going to make it out, and there's just so much of it that by the time you get there, you're like, this guy Lando's dead in this thing, and I thought to myself, well, he did betray them on Bespin, so he's going to give his life in service of defeating the Death Star. But when it shoots out of the flames, it still seems like a shock based on all of the foreshadowing at the end of that. But it was good. It's such a good movie. It really is. And of course, the part where Darth Vader looks at Luke, he's being tortured, looks back at the Emperor, looks back at Luke, looks back at the Emperor, and the crowd's just like, get him, go get him, get the Emperor. Like, is it possible? Just the perfect amount of time to make you insane. Like, no, you can't let him kill Luke. That's just, it's so fun every time when you're sitting there with an audience watching that.
So the orchestra plays along to the score. Now, do they take the score out of the original film? Okay, that's interesting. So they have a special cut of the film with no music, and they just play it.
But it's synced perfectly. They even play the fanfare at the beginning, the 20th Century Fox fanfare. Like, oh my God, it's perfectly synced to the film. And there's subtitles on the film because sometimes when the orchestra really hits it hard, then it does overwhelm the dialogue a little. And there was even things that were on the subtitles. I was like, is that what they're saying? Like, that I'd misheard. I can't think of something off the top of my head. But there's a few times where I was like, oh, that's weird. I didn't know he was saying that there. I thought he was saying something else.
Did they play the Jabba's Palace song?
Unfortunately, it's the special edition that you're seeing. And so we got James Brown with his big tonsils. And also, because it's been so long since I've seen it on screen, all of the little weird things going on in Jabba's palace in the corners, and like a snake coming down, and all sort of the cronies, the losers hanging around watching what Jabba's doing. Like, I sort of forget about that, about who's all in there and who you see and what shot. So that was weird too to see that. But yeah, the special edition, that has not aged well, that musical number.
No. That's funny. And so, what else is, I guess they have the celebration at the end, a different celebration with Hayden Christensen in there.
Yeah, although I really loved it this time.
Yeah.
Seeing it. And the crowd cheered for him, and it was like, oh, well, maybe I was wrong. Maybe this is okay. As he,
Okay.
like, so that one wasn't as bad as I first thought it was.
Interesting.
But that's, the Yub Yub song's gone, of course. You
Yep.
know, it's the, whatever, Zamfir. It's the pan flute. But so no, I thought it was a wonderful night out again. And once again, it makes you love Star Wars to see it with a bunch of people.
I see they have it coming up. I don't know if they're doing a Harry Potter one. They've done a Harry Potter one before, and they have Avatar, The Last Airbender, in concert coming up, which my kids love that series. So maybe I'll take them to see that. But it's probably the same thing. They'll play the music while the show plays, eh? So that's interesting. It's a new thing. And there's that trend, and there's the trend of, and we talked about this briefly yesterday, the Joshua Tree, or U2. It's a U2 tribute band or something like that, playing the Joshua Tree at the concert hall. I don't know about that.
I don't know why. I think if the band is still, U2 played here on the last tour.
Yes, they'll come back. They'll probably come back.
They probably will.
Yeah.
So if the band is still together and touring and recording albums, we don't need the tribute. Like, okay, no. I get the Queen tribute because Freddie Mercury's dead, and that's the closest we'll get is to see that tour or something. But I don't get the one where we could still actually see the actual band.
Yeah.
You know,
interesting. Got to wait till they're dead.
Like, is Shania Twain still making money?
Probably.
Shania Twain was big at a certain point, and that's
that
when Shania Twain was playing. So maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe there is an appetite for this stuff.
Interesting. All right. Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Star Wars Nerds. I'm Dan Vanabunker.
I'm Kenton Larson. Don't let the Force hit you in the ass.
Going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Now I am the master.
I'm taking an awful risk, Vader.